Hello, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to take a look at the recently released parcours for the upcoming Transcontinental Race number 10. So it starts on, I think it's 21st of July. I'm going to be there myself. It's a 10-year anniversary of the race, 10th edition, and it's 10 years since I first raced. And yeah, so it seemed fitting to go back to it. And if you remember, a few months back, I did a preview on the route and did some speculation. The checkpoints were released, and now finally they've sent out the official parcours, and so now we know exactly where we're going to be riding. So I thought I'd take a bit of time and check them out. So the race manual, all riders who have a spot would have got like an updated race manual, and it gives you the coordinates of the checkpoints and the parcours. So the first thing I've done is upload them onto ridewithgps, and that for me, that's the best way to check them out. So I've put them in a collection here, and then I'll plan my route from there. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you exactly where I'm going to go on the TCR. It's half the test of the TCR is to make your own route, so you will have to work it out yourself. I'm not going to do it for you. But there's some interesting things to look at in these parcours, and some things are a little bit of a surprise to me. I did some speculation in my previous episode. I'll put a link down below so you can see what my thoughts were initially. But the first one is the start parcours. So we were starting in the Roubaix Velodrome, obviously Paris-Roubaix, one of the famous monuments in the cycling world. And I kind of speculated we might head south and do some of the Roubaix sectors. Turns out I was quite wrong. And we're going to do Flanders instead. So Tour of Flanders, probably one of the biggest one-day classic in the world of cycling, famous for a load of cobble climbs. So we're going to be taking in sort of the best of the Tour of Flanders. So the race starts on the 21st. 21st of July, 8 p.m. So we're going to have 2 or 3 hours of daylight and probably hit. We might clear some of these at dusk, and then we're going to be going through Gerardsbergen at night. Now the TCR. One of the traditional starting places has been Gerardsbergen. It started there in 2015, the year I won. So part of me is pretty happy to be going back through there for old time's sake. But we're going to have 50k in the legs before then. So we start with a lap of the velodrome. Then we've got the Old Quermont, the Paterberg, Koppenberg, Tannenberg, and then the run in to the Muur. So if you've watched classic editions of the Tour of Flanders, you'll recognise a lot of these climbs. This year on the race, it was raining, and on the Koppenberg, half the best riders in the world had to walk up there because it was so slippery. So it's not going to be an easy start for riders of the TCR. So yeah, we've got all those nice cobble climbs in there. So I've just set ridewithgps to Google Maps because it gives some really interesting kind of views. And so this the kind of thing we're looking at. Let's find the Koppenberg. There we go. Put the little Google man on there, and you can see what we're looking at. I've missed. if I'm a bit more accurate with my Google man, you can see that it's going to be brutal cobbles. So this is the bit over the top. So there's a bit of a false flat. This is the end of the cobble. So you can see it just drops off, that's quite a steep descent. So you can see you're coming all the way up through the trees here. In summer, it should be drier than spring, but if it's raining overnight, it'll be super slippery. It's going to hurt your legs. And then you get over the top here, and it's just a false flat all the way over. It keeps on going up and up and up, and this is where all the breaks go in the Tour of Flanders, over the top of the Koppenberg, and it's a key place in the race. It's not going to be quite so key on the TCR, but it's certainly going to put some pain in the legs early on. And then we're going to run through into Gerardsbergen and up the Muur van Gerardsbergen. Now this is where the race has started a few years. I think 3 times now, and this is 2015. I was one of the first over the Muur. I went absolutely flat out up there. Probably won't be doing the same this year, but hopefully the town always gets behind it. So hopefully there'll be plenty of people out to cheer the riders on and up over this iconic climb. So yeah, that is the first parcours, and yeah, I'm really quite pleased with that actually. I was a little bit worried about doing all the Roubaix cobbles because the Flanders cobbles are a lot smoother. The Roubaix cobbles are just absolutely savage, and it's just asking for punches and things rattling off your bike. So hopefully it'll be not quite as bad going over Flanders. And yeah, it's a nod to the classics, which is going to be great. And also,
Don't think it's going to be just cobble climbs. I'm not going to show you everything, but if you dig into this a bit, you can see there's some little lines here that denotes off-road. So do your own research and don't cry if you find a gravel in the first 50k of the TCR this year. It is a TCR, you do get gravel. Yes, it is a road race, but it's always had gravel. So do your research and know what to expect on that first night. And if it rains, it's going to be great. For me, I like riding off-road. On to the second checkpoint. So the second checkpoint is quite a long way from the start. It's over 1,000k. I think it depends on your route. Obviously, it's free route, so riders are going to be free routing all the way across. Where are we going to be? Lille, basically, that's next to Roubaix. So probably some traditional start through Belgium, probably a bit of France, across Germany, and I suspect crossing the Alps, kind of Innsbruck direction. I've not dug into it too deep at this point, and like I say, I'm racing myself, so I'm not going to tell you all the routes. But it is worth noting there are, as well as the checkpoints, there is a guide to banned roads, and there's some roads which you're not allowed to ride on. There's quite a lot actually if you look at the map, and there's also things like tunnels you can't pass through on a bike, and these are highlighted. So if you go through one of these in the Transcontinental Race, you're basically disqualified. So you can see there's plenty of like route choices to be done. There's a banned road here that's going to probably force some kind of route choices, so going via Salzburg might be more viable, but there's plenty of passes in here, so you've just got to dig into it. Some riders might go straight and or more direct and take more elevation. Some riders prefer like flatter, longer routes, but essentially the second checkpoint is in this corner up here somewhere in Slovenia. So we're going to be right up in this corner here somewhere. So you can see you're pretty much going to be dictated as to which way you have to go into the checkpoint. And if we look at the parcours, so parcours number 1, you can see where we're going. So I'll put it back on Google Maps because I find it a little bit clearer to see. And the checkpoint here, this is the coordinates I took out of the race manual. So as I said, all the coordinates are here. If you want to find them, just copy and paste that into Google. It'll give you the dot, and that's what I did. So yeah, then you can find it, and I've added a few points of interest here. So there's a couple of passes over 5,000 feet. These are big old passes, and as you can see, we'll be coming in from over the border from Italy here. The checkpoint's fairly early on, and then you've got this kind of out and back loop and a big loop around over, I think it's Rizik Pass. It looks spectacular. This was a checkpoint in a previous edition, probably 16 or 17, I believe. Probably 17. And if we look at that, put the Google map up there, they're steep, savage climbs, kind of looks like the Dolomites. Obviously, this is on a hiking trail above where we'll be going, but there's some steep climbs. So 1,000 Ks in the legs, and then straight up a savage beast like this. Loads of tunnels on there as well. So you're going to need lights and stuff, even in the daylight. But you can see it looks a bit like, it's on the edge of the Dolomites, so essentially it looks like the Dolomites. It's going to be a tough test. There's going to be some climbing in the legs before there. You do have to cross the Alps. Let's try and put the terrain on. So you can see here, there's the long big valleys kind of running east to west, and unfortunately all the passes are kind of north to south, so there's going to be some way to get through. Plenty of different routes through. You've got to avoid those banned roads. So yeah, once you dig into it, it will probably become more obvious which way to go. So yeah, that parcours is going to dictate that, and then riders. I say parcours. Checkpoint 1, that's where the race is going to start getting interesting. For me, the Transcontinental Race, once you get in southern and eastern Europe, that's the magic of it. Riding across the north of Europe is kind of easy. You know what you're expecting. There's good food everywhere. There's it feels, certainly as like living in the UK, it feels a bit more like home. And then you get to the next checkpoint, and you're riding through Bosnia, and the whole world changes. It's I love it. I love the transition. That's the great thing about the Transcontinental Race. You're seeing so many different cultures and different countries in such a relatively short period of time, and you're doing it under your own power. It's pretty magical. So this is going to get interesting. So the checkpoint, it's actually where the Winter Olympics were held. There's a ski resort up high. I'm pretty bad at pronunciations. I think it's Bleznica. So we access that. Obviously, there is a perfectly good tarmac road to get there, but we're not doing that because it's a TCR. So we're on this gravel track. There's not much in the way of intel on it. But if you put the dot on there, you can see the kind of thing we're looking at. So, I mean, it's not too bad. I'm sure the roadies will whinge about it that it's too rough. But that's just a nice, smooth gravel track. Shouldn't be a problem on a road bike. As long as you've got wide enough tyres, you should be fine. There might be some looser bits. Obviously, the weather can close in, but you can see the kind of thing you're looking at. It looks like the pass goes up there. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting checkpoint. It's going to start getting wild there, and then it looks like a tarmac descent. So I mean, climbing on gravel is a lot different to descending on gravel because you're going slower. When you're going fast down a rough descent on a road bike, it can get a bit rattly, but that shouldn't be too much of a problem, I don't think. So yeah, that is the second parkour in Bosnia. Again, there's going to be some roads to avoid going into there. There is some sketchy roads in Bosnia, and as you can see, there's quite a few that are banned. So the red crosses here are banned, and these are warnings. Basically, it means you can do it, but it's going to be sketchy. So probably best avoided. And there's a couple of tunnels here as well. Is that a tunnel? No, that's an illegal road. So a bit of both. Some sketchy roads, some banned roads. And you can see when you look at when you take the banned roads out, when you come to route planning, you can see like a pretty clear line as to where you need to be going. So yeah, I'm sure riders will figure it out. The other thing you can do as well is look at the history. So if you put heat maps on, put the global heat map on. I mean, there's not many people who probably use this in this part of the world. So once you put heat maps on there, a lot of these lines probably would have been made via the Transcontinental or the Bihar Ultra Race. So yeah, it kind of tells you everything you need to know as to which way you need to be riding. So look for the bright red lines, and that will help you through. So yeah, that's CP2. For me, it's all relatively familiar. I rode through Sarajevo in 2015 and went into, it was Kotor Bay, Montenegro was the checkpoint. This year we're going into Kosovo. So the next checkpoint is here near Prevele, which is obviously Kosovo. So the actual checkpoint isn't on the parkour. The checkpoint's a little further out, but we're basically being directed on this road here, and I think this is just tarmac by the looks of it. Well, famous last words. There's not really much information on it, but yeah, it looks like pretty newly laid tarmac. There's a kind of a ski resort up there. I mean, once you get to Eastern Europe, you're not going to necessarily expect perfect roads all the time. Everything just seems to be a little bit rough around the edges, but there's just a real energy. I just love the energy you get in this part of the world. So yeah, I think it's going to be fine. So we need to be getting from near Sarajevo, so probably a good chunk of Montenegro, and then into Kosovo. You don't want to be going into Serbia and then into Kosovo. That's going to get you in trouble. They don't recognise each other as countries, so if you get stamped into one in your passport, you're going to get in trouble at the next one. So it'll be a case of going through Montenegro. Montenegro is beautiful. I'm actually heading out there in a few weeks' time for the Accursed race, which is Lost Dots, the TCR organisers. That's their first off-road race, so I'm very much looking forward to that. So maybe I can do some cheeky scouting. So yeah, through Kosovo, a new country for me as well. That should be good. And then this is just classic TCR. So we need to be getting to Çanakkale. So this was a finish in 2016. The actual race finish this year is Istanbul, and I was the last person. 2015 was the last year we finished in Istanbul. It was proper sketchy. So I did a bit of speculation as to which way we'd go into Istanbul. So we'll go on to that in a minute. But we're going to Çanakkale first. So before, in 2014 and 2015, when I finished TCR, we went across the border at Erdini here and basically rode along the motorway into Istanbul. Traffic everywhere, absolute carnage. And then they decided to build a massive airport in the north here. Luckily, I was so tired I didn't really have the energy to fear for my life, but I'm pretty sure I would have been terrified had I actually been fresh enough to realise what was going on. So this year we're going into Turkey and then heading south to Çanakkale. Now this is the site of Troy, that historical site with the Trojan horse and all that stuff. I love the history of these places. And the checkpoint is in Çanakkale, where the race finished in 2016. And then we have this lovely little parkour. Now this is going to be interesting. Turkey, I can't wait for Turkey. So there are some banned roads. Let's have a look at the banned road list. Zoom out here, and we're going to be dictated where to go. So there's only really two viable crossings. It looks like Erdini, which is the one I've been through loads of times, and this one here through Greece, but this road is banned, so it doesn't look like that's going to be viable. Again, don't take this for granted. I'm just speculating without digging too deep. Do your own research. If you're going to copy my route, then, well, sorry about that. You might regret it. But I suspect we have to go through Erdini, which means a big slog across Bulgaria. The classic E8. Done that a couple of times on the on previous TCRs. Mildly terrifying, but it is what it is. You've got to follow the direct route sometimes. Depends on the time of day. It's like a main A road, not much shoulder, loads of crappy road services. So yeah, I think I did it in the big ring because I had single speed from Albania in 2014. So it's kind of rolling, kind of fast. And then we're going to have to pick our way south to Çanakkale. And as you can see, all the obvious routes, the big motorways are banned. There's this big highway here. Not sure if you can ride on that or not. You have to do your research. It looks like a massive toll road. So again, yeah, do your own research. But if that is banned, then there's not any other obvious roads down there. So yeah, I reckon there's going to be some interesting gravel into Çanakkale. And if we look at the parkour as well, you can see on ridewithgps the checkered line here. That means off-road. So you know full well it's going to be a gravel fest right at the end. It's going to piss all the roadies off, and I can't wait for it. It's going to be great. So yeah, I suspect it's going to be a tough finish. It's not going to be straightforward. As soon as you get to Turkey, we're going to be dealing with bad roads, small roads, gravel roads, probably extreme heat by that point, 30-35 degrees I suspect. So yeah, it's going to be great. And as you can see, it's not massively hilly, but there's enough in there just to hurt the legs. And at this point, you've still got another 400 miles to go because you've got to loop all the way around into Istanbul. Let's have a look at the final parkour. So the last almost 100 miles, 97.8 miles, is going to be set for us. This, I assume, is for safety. And I did speculate on my original video, just saying, boasting. I kind of figured this would be the case. So yeah, we're heading around the north of the northeast of Istanbul and then coming in down the Bosporus. It will be a cool ride in, but as you can see, there's loads of killer little climbs in there. They're just going to sap your legs. Not massively steep or massively long, but I can assure you after I reckon the winning time is going to be around almost 10 days, I suspect. Certainly like 9. I mean, that's going to kill your legs. And if we look at the banned roads again, so just let me zoom out so we can see where we need to be coming from. Çanakkale's here, so the CP, the previous parkours in this section here. I'll put Google Maps on again. We've got to go all the way around, and as you can see, there's some big roads. So we look at the banned road list, and oh yeah, the obvious route is banned, so it's going to be a long way around. Turkey's not very flat either. You can see on the terrain here, it's lumpy. There's some big old hills in there, so it's going to be a savage finish. But it's going to be great. Let's just have a little look at the Google Man, see what it's like up here. It looks like it's all tarmac just from the Rider GPS data. Right along the coast up here. Let's see if any of the roads are marked. Oh yeah, they are. Oh yeah, so the roads look nice. Nice trees, a bit of shade. By that point, you know, you'll probably be grateful of the shade. Hopefully there's some nice views over the Black Sea. Oh. That's the classic, isn't it? Maybe there aren't any roads there. Who knows? But I just found some sketchy dirt roads on the street view. That might not have been exactly on the route, by the way, so don't start panicking. So yeah, all I'm saying is do your research about this stuff because you know you can get caught out. And then we drop into Istanbul through the big climb up and over, and yeah, under the big bridge. So this is where the TCR finished in 2015 and 2014 under the Sultan Mehmet Bridge. We'll be dropping through the other side and rolling into the city, and it's kind of chaotic, but it's better on the eastern side than it is on the western side in terms of how chaotic it is. By this point, you'll be pretty adapted to the traffic and stuff, and probably won't care, to be honest, because you're so tired. You just want to finish and have a beer and maybe a nice Turkish kebab. So yeah, it should be a nice roll down the Bosporus, relatively chill to finish. If you finish at night, it's probably going to be better just to kind of avoid the worst of the traffic. And then we finish I don't actually know where the actual finish line is. It looks like a nice Turkish restaurant. Big Chef's Terrace, fine dining. Sounds quite good actually. Exactly where you want to finish a race like this, or a pub. I'm British, so I kind of prefer that. But there we go. Look, there we go. Big Chef's finish line. Not quite the glamorous finish you'd expect, but there we go. So that looks like the finished parcours. So there we have it. There's a quick look on ridewithgps at the parcours for the 2014. No, we're 2024 now. 2024 Transcontinental Race. Loads of homework to be done now for those riding. I've given a few views, but yeah, just do your own research when you're looking into it. Really dig into the route, because if you plan beforehand, it's going to put you in such better stead when it comes to the race, because you're going to be too tired to make route decisions when you're actually racing. Don't make mistakes now, because you'll pay for it later on. Famous last words. I'll probably cock it up myself, but now I've got to start digging into the route. I'm going to do a bit of a video series about my preparations for the TCR, equipment, clothing, route planning, all of that kind of thing. I'm going to try and do a bit of a mini series in the lead up to it over the next few months, so stay tuned for that. And as always, thanks for watching, and catch you in the next one.